The Holy Gospel of our Lord Jesus Christ according to Matthew. Another parable Jesus put before the crowds. The kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed that someone took and sowed in his field. It is the smallest of all the seeds, but when it has grown, it is the greatest of shrubs and becomes a tree, so that the birds of the air come and make nests in its branches. He told them another parable. The kingdom of heaven is like yeast that a woman took and mixed in with 3 measures of flour until all of it was leavened. The kingdom of heaven is like treasure hidden in a field, which someone found and hid. Then in his joy, he goes and sells all that he has and buys that field. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant in search of fine pearls. On finding one pearl of great value, he went and sold all that he had and bought it. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a net that was thrown into the sea and caught fish of every kind. When it was full, they drew it ashore, sat down, and put the good into baskets, but threw out the bad. So it will be at the end of the age. The angels will come out and separate the evil from the righteous and throw them into the furnace of fire, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Have you understood all this? They answered, yes. And he said to them, therefore, every scribe who has been trained for the kingdom of heaven is like the master of a household who brings out of his treasure what is new and what is old. The Gospel of the Lord. This morning, I want to speak to the scriptures through the telling of 2 stories. The first story, it was told to me by, let's just call him a friend. He'd been invited to dinner with some friends, and before the meal, they were in the backyard playing with the family dog. He's a full-blooded greyhound, his host said. We got him after his racing days, and he is just great with the kids. Eventually, it was time for the kids to go in, and the parents gathered them up, taking them inside, leaving my friend alone with the dog. So my friend says to the dog, I've never been to a greyhound track. What was it like racing professionally? It's not a bad life, said the greyhound. They treat you pretty well. Why did you leave? Did you just age out? My friend asked. No, that wasn't it, the dog said. I just flat quit. What happened? My friend persisted. Well, if you had ever been to a greyhound race, you would understand. You see, in every race, the dogs, we line up and are released by the bell. And then we chase a white rabbit around the track. But you see, it's really not a rabbit. It's just some stuffed thing that gets pulled around the track. I figured this out when, after a race, I got a close look at the rabbit. And that was it. I quit. I was ashamed to have spent the best years of my life chasing a fake rabbit. End of story. Now, if you believe that my friend actually talked to a greyhound, there are some men in white coats that will be knocking at your door soon. But if this conversation made you think, am I chasing a fake rabbit? We are onto something. I bring the greyhound story to the fore in light of the 2 short parables that we hear today. One reads, the kingdom of heaven is like treasure hidden in a field, which someone found and hid. Then in his joy, he goes and sells all that he has and buys that field. And the other is, again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant in search of fine pearls. On finding one pearl of great value, he went and sold all that he had and bought it. Now I piece these parables with the greyhound story in order to evoke some questions. First, what are some of the fake rabbits that you have identified along the way of your life? One of the most common things, I think, is we chase is financial security. We think money will do it. But oftentimes it turns out that money costs too much. What is it you're chasing now? What is it that you treasure? And where is that treasure to be found? Every word of the two parables points in the direction of treasure. The people in these two parables each had a moment of clarity when what really mattered to them came into focus. And then they do what they have to do for it to be theirs. If upon their discovery of the treasure or the pearl, these two protagonists had not acted decisively, they might have missed their joy. Go and do likewise, Jesus says. Oftentimes, the first step is realizing, as the greyhound did, is what our treasure is not. And seeing through life's illusions is harder than it might seem, because it requires that we own up to the futility of some of our best laid plans. It's hard to let go of the white rat because we've invested so much in them. The second thing is that we have to put down our desire for security and take a leap of faith. I'm going to tell you now a real story about a real person who identified his treasure and acted decisively. This person is a priest and a friend of mine, a real friend, unlike the guy in the other story. It is a story that inspires me greatly. My friend is very capable and someone who is easy to like. A while back, he was called to an already strong parish, but my friend was not content to let his church rest on its laurels. And after a couple of years of very hard work, his parish was just burgeoning with vitality. It was running strong. Attendance was way up, and the church was doing great things with its abundant resources. By pretty much everyone's standards, the parish and its rector were a giant success story. But amid this giant success, everything was not right. You see, my friend's father and grandfather had been priests. Both of them successful rectors of large parishes in their days. My friend grew up acutely aware of the respect his father had engendered within his church. But he was aware also that his father had less to give at home because of it. For many years, my friend rationalized away this absence as the price of success. But lo, if history did not repeat itself. My friend, he's done all the right things. He too has built something wonderful, and people have taken notice. But my friend, he's got a wife and 2 young children at home. And so laser-focused had he been on his work that he found himself regularly exhausted at day's end with little to offer his family. Like our greyhound, my friend had an epiphany that something was wrong within this picture of success. And in a shining moment of discovery, his treasure came into focus. While churchly success was certainly good and noble, my friend identified his family as his treasure. And having identified his treasure, my friend acted boldly. He went to the bishop and made the strangest of a request. He asked for permission for a move to a much smaller church that would demand less of him. Now, mind you, smaller is another way of saying less successful, less significant. And after first trying to persuade him to stay, the bishop ultimately relented. And my friend, he and his family, they have never looked back. And you know what? His kids will know him, and he will know his kids. For the record, the person I'm talking about is our own, the Reverend Burr Dobbins, who to this day is keeping his treasure, his family, first. Now, I can't tell you what your treasure is or where you will find it, but wherever you go looking, be on the lookout for fake rabbits. Amen.